Being in that setting and seeing people ask different questions and view the world differently was such an aha moment for me. And it reinvigorated me and it gave me a different outlook on the practice of law.
Welcome to the You Are a Lawyer podcast. Anna Krolikowska. How are you
Hi,
today?
Kyla. I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, of course, of course. I love to chat with lawyers. I love to chat with people in the Midwest. We were just talking about how you're in Chicago and I'm in Ohio, so we are neighboring. Not really. Actually, I guess we got Indiana between us, but close
Close
enough.
by. Close by.
Yes. So you said that you don't mind going by Anna K. So Miss Anna
Not at all.
K, would you tell the audience who you are and what you do?
I am a divorce attorney and mediator. So I help couples who are navigating divorce and creating a new future for themselves and their family. Now, I have been doing this for close to 20 years. So when I started out, I was a litigation attorney and did that for almost 15 years. And then along the way became a mediator and then a collaborative attorney. And now I focus my practice on collaborative process and mediation and try to help couples figure out what their particular family needs and what that new future looks like.
Yeah. So I haven't heard of that too often. What is the collaborative process like? Are you talking them out of divorce or just trying to help them see different options?
So that's a great question. And for me, I take what I do with a lot of responsibility. I believe that divorce lawyers in particular have a lot of power because people come to us at a very vulnerable moment. So in my initial consultations, I always ask, you know, do you need any other resources? Have you talked to counselors, therapists? Is there anything else or anyone else in my Rolodex that I can offer you that would be helpful to you? And if they say yes, I absolutely offer that because I never want them to feel like I'm pushing any sort of a solution or an answer. But if they are at a point where they feel that they have explored everything and this is the right choice at that point in time for them, then we talk about options. And I always talk about all of the alternatives. So there's the traditional divorce, right? Most people have either heard of it or seen it or sometimes experienced it in their families. And that someone files a case in court and it goes through the traditional process. And for some families and some instances, that is the method that they need. They will need someone to decide and make a decision, and it's available. And then there's mediation, where a couple works with a neutral mediator to come up with a decision, come up with an answer as far as what they're going to do regarding their children and decision making and parenting schedule and what they will do with their stuff, their finances. Collaborative process grew out of mediation, and that the idea is you will work through a series of meetings outside of the court system to come up with the agreements. But the creators of collaborative, and it was simultaneously born in Minnesota and California, different sets of lawyers, different sets of professionals about 30 plus years ago had this aha moment and realized we can do this differently. So in collaborative, each spouse hires an attorney who's trained in collaborative, which means you're first trained as a mediator and then trained in collaborative. So we do all this extra training to give us additional skill sets. And then we can bring in other professionals. So it's very much tailored to what this family, what this couple needs. So if we think that bringing in a mental health professional to act as a child specialist will help them to figure out what's helpful to their kids, we will do that. If bringing in a financial neutral will help them think through and talk through their finances and understand options and make better decisions, we can do that. If we're working with a family who might have a special needs child, we can bring in someone who would help them understand the nuance of various governmental benefits and how that could play into their decision. And sometimes we work with older couples and maybe there's a different layer of what they need to understand to make their decisions. So it's very much tailored to what does this family need, what would be helpful to them.
Yeah. And I feel like those examples are so appropriate, right? Because I have a 4-year-old. I've been married 5 years, and issues with children and issues with finances are some of the biggest things that like we heard about before we got married, the things that we tried to deal with before we were married, the things that you deal with every day, right? And so I love that your examples were about finances or children because those are really big things when you are married and combining a life, you know?
Oh, absolutely. And you and I are living similar lives in our personal lives. I have a 3.5-year-old.
Okay.
So it's not just my work life where I'm helping couples navigate that, but I'm living it myself, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love this idea. I feel like more practice groups should have collaborative practice, right? Like, what if it was a little bit less adversarial and more collaborating to try to find the response? How did you find out or hear about collaborative divorce?
So there's a couple questions there. So I'll start
Yes.
answering the first one. There are certain areas in the country where other and the world, it's actually a worldwide movement. Countries like England and Italy and Israel and other places in the world where people are using collaborative process. It's a method of
Okay.
dealing with conflict, as well as other areas in the United States where people are using collaborative process to deal with disputes in areas of practice like probate. So estate planning, where families are having disputes around relationships, emotions, and money, kind of similar to divorce and family law,
Yeah.
as well as other areas of practice. So it very much depends on what is happening in your particular area, your particular jurisdiction. But it's out there. In Illinois, it's limited to divorce at this point primarily. In terms of how I found out about it, I got to the point where litigation just seemed like there had to be a better way. And part of it is there's this concept of secondary trauma, and most people apply it to medical professionals. You just take on so much doing the work that you do, seeing what you see, and helping the people that you help. But divorce attorneys, mental health professionals also take that on in different ways doing the work that we do.
Yeah.
And those of us who do mediation work or collaborative work start looking for something else where we hit that point where it's just, I either find another way of doing this or I will have to leave this area of practice. And so I started looking for mediation and I went through that training. And then a friend, mentioned collaborative process. And so I went through that training as well. And
Okay.
that was such a fundamental shift for me because part of the process is going through this training with mental health professionals and financial neutrals and being in that setting and seeing people ask different questions and view the world differently was such an aha moment for me. And it reinvigorated me and it gave me a different outlook on the practice of law. And it really allowed me then to stay in this area of practice and keep me doing what I'm doing, which I really enjoy, which might sound strange, right? A divorce lawyer saying, I enjoy what I do. But
Yeah.
I view it as truly helping my clients and their families. My collaborative clients will send me emails, will send me photos, will tell me, hey, Joey graduated from high school and we were all there.
That's sweet. Yeah, I love that. And I'm so glad that you were able to stay in the practice, right?
Yeah.
This podcast is distinctly not a I hate the bar exam, I hate practicing law podcast, right? So I'm glad that you were able to find something new and even expose the audience to this other area, right? Now that we know that collaborative practice groups do exist. And if someone is interested in that, they can look for it and kind of seek it out.
Yeah. If you don't mind, let's stay with that for a second because
Yeah.
the practice of law can be difficult. And the other thing that keeps me passionate is my involvement with bar associations. And I do that because it brings me joy. It allows me to interact with other lawyers, but it also helps me to pay it forward because I can't really thank the people who brought me into that world, which allows me then to basically have a space where I don't feel so alone, where I don't feel so siloed, where I can't find ways of interacting with lawyers that keep me energized and engaged, which often helps some lawyers, not all, we all have to find our own path, but helps some lawyers stay engaged in the practice of law.
Yeah, absolutely. And I find that a lot of times, I mean, it's not easy to quit anything, but I have noticed that a lot of times people were like, well, I just don't like any law at all and I'm out.
Mm,
And I think it's really encouraging when people are able to say, okay, I didn't fail in this practice group, but maybe I can have more success somewhere else. And then they
yeah.
kind of give themselves that permission to look around. But I think for people to even daydream or even imagine looking around, they have to be connected to other organizations and network and see that there's more, right? Like you were
Yes.
chair of the Illinois State Bar Association.
I was the fifth
Um,
woman president of the Illinois State Bar
yeah.
Association. Yes.
Yes, which is a huge deal. And so I'm sure there are lawyers looking at you like, if she can do it and she's happy, right? You're not showing up miserable, beat down, super upset. You had the time to write books. So
Yes.
I think that people need to see stuff in order to aspire to be it, you know?
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. And I will share this with you. Since
yeah.
I was president of ISBA, there have been three other women elected president of ISBA. So before me, there were four in roughly 50 years.
Wow.
Since I was president, and I was president in 21 through 22, there have been three elected presidents. So when you say you have to see it
Yeah.
to aspire to be it, I wholeheartedly agree. I love being president. Don't take me wrong, there was a lot of hard work, but my goals with taking on that role were to be that role model, to show others that it was possible for a young woman attorney.
Yeah.
I was sworn in when my daughter was 2 months old, which
Oh,
there were a lot of things that were happening that wasn't necessarily the plan when I ran, but that's a whole nother conversation. And part of my goal for my presidency became to normalize it that lawyers have families, especially that female lawyers have families, because I was also a COVID president. My presidency was from June of 21 through June of 2022. And I can
yeah.
tell you that to this day, I still get notes. I still get people stopping me at our various conventions or events and telling me, thank you for that because you have no idea the impact it had or the difference it had on me when I saw you or saw your daughter with you during whatever various things we were doing, because it made me realize that just like me, you were dealing with the same things during COVID that our other lawyers were dealing with.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I had my daughter in June 2020. And so years ago, if you wanted to be a guest on the podcast, I was only recording between 9 p.m. and 11:30 when she would be asleep. And it's funny because there were so many people who were like, I don't have time for this. I can only do the day. And now that I do this like full time, people are like, I don't have time during the day. Do you have 9 hours? And I'm like, no. But it's very nice that like your life can change and shift. But also so much stuff has changed, right? Since 2021, the world and everything is just so different.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, Anna, I want to talk about the books that you've written. One of them was
Sure.
called Everyday Women's Guide to Thrive in Your Busy Life. And then the other one is The Iconic Woman's Guide to Empowerment. 21 women share inspirational stories. So let's start with the first one. What made you decide that you wanted to write a book?
So once I was done being a bar president, yes, I still remain engaged with Bar Association. I'm involved with the ISBA and ABA and National Conference of Bar Presidents, but I was looking for what was my next step. What was the next stage in the life of Anna? What did I want to do? Because life is short, and there are so many different opportunities available to us. And I thought, I want to write books. And if you remain open to possibilities, people will cross your path. And I was introduced to a couple of women who are wonderful friends and mentors. And that's how the books came to be. One of the books, I wrote my chapter for women who are contemplating or going through a divorce process. And it focused about empowerment and education, primarily about financial education, because I believe that for women in particular, if they educate themselves about finances, they make better choices, which impact them long term significantly more than men. Because, in general, and I'm stereotyping, in general, in divorce cases, men tend to be already more in tune with the financial picture of the family. So I focused on that in that particular book. In the other book, I talked about that elusive life work balance, right? That we're
Yeah.
all striving for, chasing, and how sometimes it really doesn't pan out or not all at once. And how some of those disasters can be opportunities for joy and time with your family, even if it means that you have a new Picasso on your wall, or, you know, all of a sudden your best laid plans turn into an impromptu dance party in your living room, whatever that happens to be, right?
Yeah.
Just embrace those moments. Still enjoying them.
Yeah.
There's more to come in 2025.
Yay! I love that. I've had a couple authors on here. I think it's starting to be a trend. I will definitely check them out. I do book reviews on YouTube because I try to read about 2 to 3 books every week. And
Great.
yeah, I love this one, like how to thrive in your busy life. I like that. So yeah, I'll definitely check those out. Well, there's two different quotes that I love about being busy, and the first one it's from Sex and the City, the show, and they say like the goal to having it all is not expecting it to look like what you thought it would look like, and I
Love
feel like
that.
that is true. Yes. And then the other one is from a book called Unapologetically Ambitious, Shelley Archambault, I believe, and she calls it work life integration because she's like the balance is never going to be one is going to be up, the other is going to be down. A lot of times it's just finding a way that you can just combine all of your passions, so it's about just making it work.
I like that. I really like that. And sometimes it's allowing one or the other to take precedence, right? So maybe some
Yeah.
days or some afternoons the life part takes precedence, and some mornings it's the work part that takes precedence. And it's all about balancing them as well
Yeah,
as finding time for yourself.
absolutely, absolutely, I'm a big fan of that.
And it's an adjustment. You know, you
Hmm.
have an idea what being a mom might be before you become a mom, and then the reality starts setting in. But
Yeah,
it is an adjustment because you're no longer just you, an individual woman. You're now a mom, and it's figuring out all of those pieces of yourself and rebuilding yourself as the new you.
absolutely, absolutely. So Anna, I ask this question of every podcast guest because the podcast audience is about 60% law students and then like 40% young lawyers, so 5 years practicing or less.
Okay?
What would you say to them about what they could do with their law degrees?
Anything you want. You can do anything you want. The key is figuring out what it is and then creating a plan to get there. Because Anna, law student, didn't know that she would be here in this moment. Now, she had an idea that she wanted to be a private practice attorney in a smaller firm because she believed that would give her a better life work balance. Eventually, along the way, she realized that she wanted to be a business owner. She wanted to own her own law firm. And then that was the next step. And then she met great attorneys and mentors who suggested that it would be a good idea to get involved with bar associations. So she did that. And then, and I'm speaking of myself in third person. I don't know why, but I'm just going to
It's
go with that, I
okay.
guess. And then became more involved with bar associations, business organizations to keep building the business, keep building the network, just sort of building up the Anna brand. I'm going to call it that. Because as a woman attorney, I believe that rainmaking, bringing in business, whether you own your own business or you're at a firm, gives you power because you're generating money, you're generating revenue. So whether you run your own business or you're at a firm, if you're negotiating anything money related, it gives you leverage. So keep that in mind. And then be open to opportunities, things that might come up. When people say you should consider this board opportunity, you might want to run for this. Have you thought about writing a book? Whatever that looks like for you, don't shut it down immediately, don't rule it out. And also keep in mind that women tend to undervalue themselves. We just do. And we could have a longer conversation as to why that is, whether that's societal or whatever else that might be, but we
Yeah.
tend to do it. And in general, it takes someone else telling us, me included, someone else telling us, you should run for this, you should consider this. Younger Anna didn't just wake up and say, hey, I'm going to run for president of state bar. It was multiple people, mentors saying, hey, have you thought about this? And I'm sharing that with you because I want you to know that if you're having those doubts about yourself, it's not just you. It's so many of us walking around who needed to be asked. So just be open
Yeah.
to the possibilities. And if there's that fire burning in you, go for it. Figure out how. And if there's someone who you think would be an amazing mentor and you're somewhere socially at a bar association, somewhere out there in the world, reach out to them. Say, hey, can I talk to you for a few minutes? Can we have a cup of coffee? Can we have a Zoom chat? And see if they might have some suggestions for you. You never
Yeah.
know what that could turn into.
I love that. Do not immediately shut down what people say, right? Because they're seeing you from a different perspective. That's good.
Yes.
That's good. Oh, that's so good. Well, thank you so much, Anna Kay, for chatting with me today. I know the audience is going to absolutely love everything that you had to say. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you so much.